This video is going to be about staying true to yourself and learning to follow your intuition and your own inner guidance. Good morning. It's like 6:45 a.m. I'm looking at a very beautiful full moon. The moon is now obscured by this giant cloud, but that's all right, isn't it? Early on in what I like to call the journey, my life, and what felt like when my life started back when I was 15, and I actually started to gain some consciousness and some awareness of who I was being and who I want to be, and taking the basic actions to get there. I felt very confused. I felt very unaware of what to do next, of what I should do, of what's right and what's wrong. There were a lot of things that I was doing that I knew were wrong for me deep down, but I justified why it was okay that I was still doing them. So there was a lot of confusion, not a lot of clarity when it comes to that inner guidance. And over these years, I've really developed an inner guidance that is audible, and I can really see it, I can really feel it, I can really listen to it. And I want to share with you how you can also develop an inner guidance this way, because if you can develop this, then you'll never feel lost in life. Your inner compass is the most valuable thing that you can develop in this life, because you're surrounded by so much noise, you're surrounded by so much information, that if you don't have access or awareness of your inner compass, you are going to be steered in so many different directions by all the people around you, by all the information around you, by all the environmental cues and factors around you, and you're never going to feel like you're able to keep your rudder on course. You're never going to feel like you're able to steadily move towards your goals. You're going to constantly feel like things are derailing you and moving you off the path. And so in this video, I want to teach you how you can develop that inner compass for yourself. And it's not as hard as you might think. First of all, let's just put this out there in case you didn't know, you do have an inner compass. You are divinely, oh shit. Oh, my bad. The wind literally blew over my camera. I should have the tripod, but I'm just like sending it right there. You are divinely connected to everything around you. If you want to think about the universe in terms of electrons and neutrons, then there's no real separation between anything, because electrons and neutrons are held together by a gravitational field of electricity, and everything is electrically connected. And so even when whether you're touching someone or you're 100 feet away from somebody, you're still technically touching them through this magnetic electric field that is surrounding us. And so your inner compass is actually sort of like a sixth sense, or another sense that is connected to your environment around you, and it's using your body's intelligence and your subconscious mind to make sense of things and to help guide you, rather than using your logical mind, which can be very limited, because it is typically only limited to the thoughts that you're thinking right now in a linear fashion, and the information that you have pulled up out of the file cabinet of your memory system. Meanwhile, this inner compass is connected to intelligence, the intelligence of the universe, to everything. You could visualize it as you're connected to this infinite field stretching outwards infinitely into all of space and all of everything, and every thought, everything is accessible by your subconscious mind, by that intelligence. Right? And so you do have access to this, and it's actually much better to listen to your inner compass than it is to listen to your logic 99% of the time, because your logic is not fully developed. Logic is a crude thing, typically, especially early on in our life, before we have contemplated very much, before we've meditated very much, before we've observed reality intimately and presently very much, our intellect and our logic can be very crude, because it's really just something that has been mostly developed by the conditioning and the conditional environments that we've been put in. Now we're going to get into actually how to develop this inner compass and how to recognize this inner compass. So the way that I would recommend to you to recognizing your inner compass, is like a little exercise you can do, is I want you to walk outside and ask yourself, what is the right thing for me to do right now? And something is going to come up in your head, a thought, a feeling, whatever. And there's going to be a microsecond where there's a hunch of doing something, and it's not what you're going to expect most of the time. Maybe it is what you expect, but most of the time it's something that you wouldn't expect. So maybe you walk outside and your hunch is immediately to like go talk to some cute girl you see across the street, right? And then you're like, no, that's not the right thing to do. That's not my inner compass. That's just my ego, and just like, that's just what I want to do, and that's weird, and maybe you feel uncomfortable about that and you don't do it, and whatever. What I'm telling you is the first hunch, the first thing that feels like you desire to do that, that's your inner compass. And when you follow that, you'll find that like a magical sequence of events happens. So like maybe you go talk to that girl, and then you find out she's like the girl of your dreams, and then you get married and you have kids and you're traveling the world, and all types of things like that can happen from one step, from taking that one step of just following the inner compass. Another quality of following your inner compass is that it's typically always going to take you outside of your comfort zone. And that's a big reason why people don't recognize that their inner compass is actually speaking to them, because it is speaking to you always, but you are probably disregarding every single thing that it's saying, because it's going to make you uncomfortable. It's going to take you outside your comfort zone. It's going to make you feel like maybe I'll fail, maybe this is the wrong thing to do. It's going to make you doubt yourself, because if you're not used to going outside of your comfort zone, if you're not used to doing uncomfortable things, you're not going to be able to trust this inner compass, because you're operating off of your logic. You're operating off of your mental paradigms, your mental systems, which are not true to who you actually desire to be. Who you actually desire to be is the person that is brave enough to do all of these things that are uncomfortable to you. And any thought, any idea that appears in your mind that suggests otherwise, that suggests that you don't want to do the uncomfortable thing, that's not actually you. That's programming, that's conditioning, literally controlling your mind like a virus. And so learning to listen to your inner compass is actually also learning to become aware of the mind virus of your false identity. And I'm going to explain to you what a false identity is right now. A false identity is what most people are operating under. It is the identity, your sense of I, of who I am and my story and what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable of. That is mostly shaped, for most people, by your environment, by your parents, by your friends in school, by your teachers, by the media that you consume, by the books that you read, right? And so all this information and worldly experiences is accumulated into creating this identity of this person, but this person is limited, because this false identity that has been constructed by all this information is limited to the information that it is consumed. And so if you've consumed certain limiting information, especially in terms of your dreams and goals. So for example, I love entrepreneurship. My path is learning how to become a good entrepreneur. If you're someone who wants to become a good entrepreneur, more than likely, if you never had a lot of money, or if you've never been in a family with a lot of money, you probably have a lot of conditioning around money, because most people do, that is going to massively limit you in your ability to do proper entrepreneurship. Because if you can't bring in enough money to grow your business, then you're not going to be able to grow your business, and you're going to be frustrated, and you're like, well, I don't know what's going on. And so that is the false identity. That's the limitations that you perceive yourself to have. And your compass is actually your key, your master key to riding the wave out of that, to literally like ejecting yourself out of the false identity seat and placing yourself in the shoes of your highest self, of your most ideal self, of that version of you that when you imagine like the best version of yourself, that's every action that you'll take through your inner compass, because it already knows deep down who you want to be and where you want to be going. Oftentimes you won't be able to even tell until you look back, right? Until like a year later, you'll look back and connecting the dots, you'll see how that relationship falling apart actually changed your life and made things so much better. But you weren't able to realize that in the moment. And that's another reason why people don't listen to their inner compass, is because you're thinking in terms of your pleasure now, your instant gratification now, and you're not really able to see the bigger picture of how things are going to turn out. I mean, oftentimes you never will be. You just learn, and this is just a beautiful thing, I can't even really explain why it works, how it works, but you just learn that your inner compass is something that can be trusted, because the more you trust it, the more it pays off. And then you'll have moments where it doesn't seem to pay off and you'll doubt it a little bit, but then you'll see how it paid off later and you'll be like, oh, okay, that's even cool. And then that builds extra trust, because you're like, wow, this is really magical, amazing thing. So developing awareness of your false identity is simply becoming more aware. And I always advocate meditation, because meditation is like a fucking beeline to becoming aware, because what you're doing is you're sitting down, you're focusing on your breath, you're focusing your awareness on your breath. And what that is doing is it's training you to actually use your awareness. People are not trained to use their awareness. People are trained to react to their environment. Things happen, they react. Things happen, they react. Things happen, they react. Things happen, they react. What this is training you to do is things happen, you respond. You move your awareness to it, you observe it, you observe the things happening. It's much different than reacting. Reacting is an ego response. That's the false identity literally acting like an AI and having an auto response. And then you feel like it's you, because there's emotions happening in your body, there's thoughts happening, and this whole experience happens so seamlessly that you feel like it's you doing it. But really, it's an auto response. It's a program. And that's why you'll notice if you observe other people, you'll see it a lot easier in other people. You'll see how people say the same things over and over again, how they act the same way over and over again, how they experience the same problems over and over and over and over and over again. You're no different. Don't exclude yourself from that. The hard part is including yourself in that, because we never really want to look at ourselves and we never want to really see how confused we really are in reality. But if you can be brave enough to see that and to accept that and to work with that, you're going to be so much farther ahead than 99.9% of the people, because most people are not aware of themselves. You should be meditating no matter what. And then that meditation, that core practice, can be taken through your entire life. Like right now, I'm meditating. Right now, I feel like I'm rooted in this present moment. And I'm just soaking in this experience, and I'm observing myself speaking, and everything is just flowing naturally. And this is a form of meditation for me. Making these videos is a form of meditation for me. And there's different types of meditation, right? But what I want you to focus on for now is simply focusing on your breath. Close your eyes, focus on your breath for like 10 minutes. And every time that you focus on your breath, you're going to notice your mind will probably get distracted. You'll start thinking about thoughts and images and blah, blah, blah. Go back to your breath. And every time it gets distracted and you notice it getting distracted, if you notice it getting distracted, be like, oh crap, go back to your breath. And you're gonna be frustrated, because you're probably only gonna be able to hold it on your breath for like 2 seconds before mew, mew. Thoughts are gonna be like this. But one day, I promise you're gonna get this, you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna be sitting there for a fucking hour, no thoughts, just like peace. And when you get there, you're gonna be like, wow, this is really, because it's not just like empty peace. It's like peace that is changing you and transforming you and healing you. And then you're able to operate so much more effectively in this reality. You're able to follow that inner compass so much more effectively. Once you deconstruct some of your false identity, you start to recognize the difference between what feels right, that gut feeling, and then what feels like programming. You'll start to question it, and it'll become more and more obvious. And then you'll be able to get to the point where it's just very obvious, and you naturally make the right decision more and more, and then you naturally start to feel more and more like the person that you want to be. Yeah, that's it pretty much for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's a little bit longer than I usually make my videos, but honestly, maybe you'll appreciate that. I was kind of like flowing really good this video, so I'm happy about that. I feel like I got out some good information. I'll catch you guys in the next one. I love you. Peace.